Hello viewers, this is Excel Science Tuition and today we are going to study Introduction to Chemistry. But just before we start, I'd like to remind you one thing, that in whatever you are doing, you should never give up. Let's start our lesson for today. I hope you'll enjoy. And we are going to start with chemistry as a science. Remember, in primary school you studied general science. Science was not divided. But here in secondary school, we are going to divide science into three major subjects. That is physics, chemistry, and biology. Also, some part of mathematics will fall into science, but most of it will be applied. First of all, we are going to define what is matter. Matter is anything that has mass and occupies space. And there are three states of matter: solid, liquid, and gases. Remember, the three states of matter are interconvertible. That is to say, we can move from solid to liquid and to gas and vice versa. The relationship between the three states of matter. So when we are moving from solid to liquid to gas, when we're moving from solid to liquid, we use heating, and that process is called melting. Moving from solid to liquid is called melting. And then moving from liquid to gas, it is called evaporation. So evaporation is the change in state from liquid state to gaseous state. That is what we call evaporation. For example, when you're boiling water, you'll realize that there will be steam that will be evaporating. So that is as a result of heating. So in this process, we involve heating. Then moving from solid to gas directly without passing through the liquid state is what we call sublimation. So we have substances that sublime and they move from solid to liquid without passing through the liquid state. They move from solid to gas without passing the liquid state. For example, iodine. When you heat iodine in a container, you will observe that you will have a purple vapor. So it has moved directly from solid to gas. We have heated. That is why it has changed from solid to gas without passing through the liquid form. So that is what we call sublimation. The next step is what we call condensation. Condensation is moving from gas to liquid. For example, when hot water is heated, it evaporates first. Then, for us to condense it, we can use cold water on top or an environment that is cool. So that water will condense back into the container, and that is what we call condensation. We have converted the steam back to liquid. Then the next step is what we call freezing. Freezing is moving from liquid to solid. For example, converting water to ice. When you convert water to ice, that is, you have moved from liquid to solid, and that is what we call freezing. Then the last step is what we call sublimation or deposition. It is moving from gas state to solid state directly without passing through liquid. So that is what we call sublimation, or else you can call it deposition. Other substances that are sublime include ammonium chloride, aluminium chloride, and benzoic acid. So you'll have to note that one down. Then let's move. We are going to study the properties of matter. As we defined earlier, matter is anything that occupies space and has mass or weight. So a solid is made up of particles which are closely packed. When we say they are closely packed, we mean that there are very strong intermolecular forces between its atoms or its particles. Then, if it has strong intermolecular forces, that means that it has a fixed or a definite shape, and it has a definite volume. What is volume? Volume is the amount of space that a substance can occupy. When you say it has a definite volume, that means it cannot conform to the volume of the container that it is put in. So it has a definite shape and it has a definite volume. That is one property of solids. Then it has very high density. What is density? Density is mass per unit volume. So since it has a fixed mass and it has a fixed volume, that is why it has high density. Liquids are made up of particles that have some degree of freedom. They are not so closely packed, but remember they are also not very further apart. So liquids have no definite shape and they can conform to the shape of the container in which they are put. Then we will also learn that liquids have definite volume and they can occupy a certain amount of space. Gases are made up of particles that are further apart. They are free. They are further apart as compared to those of solid and liquids. So gases have no definite shape. They take the shape of the container in which they are put. Then it has no definite volume. It occupies every space in a container. So when we compare the boiling point and the melting point, solids have strong boiling and melting point. This is because they have very strong intermolecular forces that make them to have the high melting and high boiling points. What does that one mean? That it is hard to heat a solid substance to its melting point as compared to a liquid and a gas. The particles of a liquid are further apart, hence it has weaker intermolecular forces as compared to solids. So when you compare solids, liquids and gases, we can note that solids have strong intermolecular forces, followed by liquids, and then lastly followed by gases. Then we are going to study about conductors and non-conductors. This is in reference to electricity. So a conductor is a solid that allows electric current to pass through. So when you say something is a conductor, we mean that it can allow electric current to pass through. Most metals are conductors. Why? Because they have free electrons that can carry the charges which will enable them to conduct. A non-conductor is a solid that does not allow electric current to pass through. Most of non-conductors are maybe, let's say, liquids, and some solids also are non-conductors, for example, wood. All metals conduct electricity. All non-metals do not conduct electricity except carbon and graphite. So when we say all non-metals, we mean every other non-metal does not conduct electricity. But we have an exception of carbon graphite. What is graphite? Graphite is the black thing that is used in pencils. If you have your pencil, you can look at it. The black thing is what you call graphite, and it conducts electricity. Why? Because it has free electrons. We'll learn about electrons in another chapter. So metals conduct because they have delocalized electrons which are free to carry charges. Non-metals do not have free electrons to conduct, so they have fixed electrons. Also, you can say that metals conduct because they have mobile electrons which can move and carry the charge. So after learning about conductors and non-conductors, we are going to learn about drugs. Remember in class 7, you learned that a drug is a natural or synthetic. When we say synthetic, we mean it is man-made or artificial substance that when taken alters the normal functioning of the body. So here we have keywords. A drug is a substance, whether man-made or natural, that when taken alters or changes the normal functioning of the body. For example, when you take alcohol, it alters the normal functioning of your body because you start losing balance, you start staggering, and so on. So a drug can be natural or synthetic, and when changes, it alters the normal functioning of the body. And then we have what we call medicine. Medicine is a drug that is natural or man-made that is prescribed by a medical doctor or a medical official. So medicines are thus drugs intended for correct abnormal body functions. For example, if you have malaria, the doctor will prescribe that you take quinine so as to correct the abnormal body function. So what is medicine? Medicine is a natural or a synthetic substance that when taken alters the abnormal functioning. So it makes it to function normal to remove it from the abnormal. So medicine should be taken on prescription and dosage. For example, if you are told to take 2 tablets times 1, you take 2 times 1. When you now start taking by your own prescription, that is what we will define in a later topic, and we will call it drug abuse. So you should not abuse drugs. So we can also define what is a dosage. A dosage is the correct quantity of a drug required to alter the abnormal function back to normal. For example, you may require 5 grams of paracetamol to correct your headache. So that is the dosage, 5 grams. As I've said, we're going to define what is drug abuse. Drug abuse is when a drug is intentionally used to alter the normal functioning of the body. So drug abuse is taking a drug for the wrong purpose or for a purpose other than the one that is intended to. So we have some drugs that induce a false feeling of maybe strength, a false feeling of feeling stimulated, and those drugs are illegal. They include heroin, cocaine, bang, mandrax, and morphine. So you'll realize that most of these drugs, we define them in primary school and we said that they are hard drugs. And then we have some abused drugs, some common abused drugs that are not illegal but are still drugs. For example, mirror, alcohol, tobacco, and sleeping pills. When you say sleeping pills, we mean something like Piriton. So when a prescription or dosage is not followed, that is what we call drug misuse or drug abuse. Some drugs are used for other purposes other than what is intended, and that is what we have defined and said it is abuse. So today I'm going to give you an assignment that will cater everything that we've learned today. So I want you to go and read ahead and define what is chemistry and give 3 properties of matter, differentiate between a conductor and a non-conductor. Define what is a drug and what is drug abuse. You can leave your comments in the comment section, and nice time.